friends, my name is Kayla Rayne, and today we are celebrating 1 year of monthly recommendations. Yes. I am very excited to be celebrating 1 year of monthly recommendations with my good friend Trina over at Between Chapters. We have been doing this group for a full year now. That's fantastic. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who has made this such a successful and fun group. I think that it's fantastic that we have such great discussions, that we have so many fantastic and varied recommendations. But I did want to do a little shout out today and spread some love for two members of our group who have been here since the beginning and have just had really great videos. The first one is Cece from Problems of a Book Nerd. I absolutely love watching her monthly recommendation videos every single month. She has such varied recommendations, and I love that she has some books that a lot of people haven't heard of and a good mix of popular books. That's something I always look forward to with her videos. I think that she has such a great variety of books to recommend, so if you aren't already subscribed to her channel, which you should be, I'll leave links in the down bar below for you to check her out. I also would like to recommend my friend Michelle over at Michelle's Life. She has such fantastic videos every single month, and I love that she got into this and just jumped right into our group and just has really fun recommendations. I love seeing her videos every single month, and I love the way that she has discussions about them, and just the way she recommends her books is just so interesting for me to watch. And it's not just booktubers who do our monthly recs group, it is also bloggers, so be sure to check them out, especially if you're on the lookout for some book bloggers and kind of want to jump into that world. I do recommend reading book blogs on top of like watching booktube videos because they're very insightful and super fun. But without further ado, I'm going to jump into our monthly recs, and the theme this month is the theme of our past year's recommendation videos. So there is a list of 12 topics, and we're going to recommend one book for each one. So I'm just going to jump right in, starting with our very first ever topic, and that is an underrated book, and I'm going to have to go with The Cure for Dreaming by Kat Winters. I will just continue recommending this book forever until like everyone I know has read it, because it's fantastic and totally underrated, and I love it. And I love Kat Winters. Next is a book set in school, and I'm going to have to go with Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I think she just did a fantastic job of creating this book that's set in a school and has serious school vibes, and the characters are so amazing. They definitely are written like real teenagers and definitely reflect teenagers in such a positive and strengthening light. And Becky Albertalli just hit all the sweet spots of being a teenager and high school drama and friendship and school settings and homework and family and all that really great teenagey stuff that I definitely remember. Next is a creepy book, and I'm going to have to go with Seraphina and the Black Cloak by Robert Beatty. This is a very low level creepy book, very minor creep factor to it, but that's kind of how I like it because I'm easily scared and I like sleep, so I want to be able to sleep at night. But this book is set in the Biltmore estate, and it is historical fiction, and it has like this creepy, mysterious character that steals children in a black cloak. And it's creepy. Next is a trilogy, and of course I'm gonna have to go with the Cahill Witch Chronicles by Jessica Spotswood, because this is just a really fun and fantastic trilogy. It's historical fiction, it's fantasy, it's feminist, it has the most beautiful love story in it, and just has really awesome girl power moments. So, you know, what more could you ask for? Next is a book you should read ASAP, and I'm actually going to have to go with a graphic novel or comic book series that is completed. There are 6 volumes, and that is the Sweet Tooth series by Jeff Lemire. This is just a dystopian, futuristic survival story following a main character named Sweet Tooth, and he's like a little kid and is surviving in this really awful post-apocalyptic society, and it's fantastic and you should read it. Next is a fantasy book, and I'm gonna have to go with The Star-Touched Queen by Roshni Chokshi. I really enjoyed this book. I am such a sucker for really lush, well built up fantasy worlds, and this just hit all of my good spots as far as that goes, because the fantasy world was beautifully put together and just had this really great detail and just this really great focus on the world itself, and that just really hit the spot for me. So yeah, that has been the coolest fantasy book I think I've read so far this year. Next is a book with little to no romance, and I'm gonna have to go with Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple. This book has very little romance in it, and it is just an interesting look at relationships and how genuinely shitty they can be sometimes, and how sometimes you can make it kind of funny with the way you write it. And also you'll cry a little. Next is a standalone, and I'm going to have to go with Far, Far Away by Tom McNeill. I really enjoyed this standalone. I think that it had the perfect pacing for a standalone, so I didn't fly right through it hoping for another book. Everything tied together really well in the end, and the characters had a really great development throughout and definitely reached the place where they needed to be by the end of the book. And that's a huge thing for me, is that everything ties together really nicely at the end of standalone, because I really need things to be done. I don't need to wonder at all. Next is a survival story, and I'm gonna have to recommend On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Davis. This isn't a very hardcore survival story, but it's really fantastic. It follows a main character who has autism, and she's just trying to find a way to convince a spaceship that she is worthy of being there, and so is her mother and her trans sister, and trying to prove to other people that herself and her family are worthy of survival, and trying to make it off a very destitute planet Earth that has just received a really horrible comet that destroyed everything. So it's a really interesting survival story with a dystopian and contemporary aspect to it. Next is a favorite friendship novel, and no surprises here, I'm going to have to go with The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Amber Ashers, because this is my channel. We knew this would happen. Then there's a book set outside of the United States, and I'm going to have to go with DaVincis Tiger by L.M. Eliot. This is a historical fiction that is set in Florence, Italy, and it is during the Renaissance period, and it follows a young girl who ends up being Da Vinci's muse. It is very interesting, and it's just this really beautiful, lush historical fiction world that is set in Italy, and it has this really great detail on how life worked during that time period, and was just really fantastic to read. And finally, a book with an empowering female lead, and I'm gonna have to throw in A Madness So Discreet by Mindy McGinnis, because Grace is such an empowering and fantastic main female character. So if you haven't read that yet and you're looking for a kick-butt female character and not necessarily in the strength aspect, I do recommend checking this out, because Grace has such mental strength and is so intelligent and so strong and resilient that I loved seeing her in that book, and just seeing that reflection of so many women who make it through so many awful situations but are still resilient, still healing, and still looking to live a life that they choose for themselves. And it's a beautiful story, and you should read it. That is it for today's video. I will leave links in the down bar below for all of the lovely ladies that I mentioned in this video, as well as the Goodreads group, so you can check us out and join us and help us celebrate year 2 next August. I will also leave links in the down bar below for you to check out my social media sites such as Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. As always, thank you so much for watching. Stay weird.